Let's start in Japan, where the polls are open for snap parliamentary elections. These elections weren't supposed to be held until late 2016, but Prime Minister Shinzo Abe called the snap vote last month after Japan slipped into recession. The outcome's unlikely to be a surprise. Abe's ruling party, the LDP, is expected to win what is, in part, a referendum on how he's been handling the struggling economy. His plan consists of three so-called arrows. The Japanese government has boosted spending on public projects and it's lowered interest rates. That's made Japan's exports cheaper. The Bank of Japan has printed hundreds of billions of dollars and used it to buy government debt. And that's made investors switch to stocks, in turn making the Tokyo stock market soar. The third arrow of structural reforms has taken longer. Abe wants to free up healthcare, making things easier for entrepreneurs and overhaul the way that companies do business. But the economy slumped into recession in November, and Abe's delayed a planned increase in sales tax, which he fears could stop consumers from spending. Harry Fawcett joins us now live from Tokyo. Harry, those polls, they're open now. Are a lot of people showing up to vote? Electoral experts, I believe, are predicting a low turnout.
That's right. The question is whether the turnout will be lower than the lowest since the war, which was what happened in 2012 when 59% or just over of Japanese voted. I think the question that a lot of people are asking is why this election has been greeted more with confusion than with enthusiasm. There was a poll showing about 63% of Japanese voters really were pretty baffled by why this election had to take place. There's been criticism of its cost, of the delays that it will bring to government business. But if you look at this from the perspective of Shinzo Abe and his ruling party, the logic for doing this right now does seem pretty inescapable.
Closing out the campaign for a contest he's almost certain to win. Japan's Prime Minister nonetheless painting this as a high-stakes choice.
If we create a country where everyone is given a chance, Japan will grow much bigger. If we listen to the Democratic Party of Japan, who says that this country cannot grow because of the reduced population, Japan will never grow. We are finished if we give up.
2 years into a 4-year parliament, Shinzo Abe says he needs a renewed mandate for the economic recovery plan he calls Abenomics. Stimulus, monetary easing, structural reform make up its three arrows, designed to end deflation and spur growth.
Deflation in Japan is basically history. Prices are increasing, wages are not increasing as much. So very clearly on the inflation side of policies, the government has been very successful and households are even starting to doubt if too successful already.
Imports like the beef used at this fast food chain are getting more expensive. Yoshinoya is raising the price of its beef bowl, a lunch break staple, for the first time in 24 years. But despite the increased cost of living, voters seem inclined to give Abe more time.
I hope that Abe can revitalise the economy. So even if there is inflation, I hope that's going to help Japan.
Rather than seeing people change again, I hope that one person can stick around and do what he has to do.
The Prime Minister has called this election at a time when the opposition is in disarray and the voters seem disengaged. There's little to lose and plenty to gain. This election is being framed not least by Prime Minister Abe himself as a referendum on his economic policy. But victory and the extra 2 years in power that would confer would also allow him to move ahead on a number of other controversial issues. There's been almost no mention in the campaign of nuclear power, for example. The government plans to restart the first of Japan's reactors, idled in the wake of the Fukushima disaster, early next year, in the face of majority opposition among the public at large. It's already carried out a reinterpretation of the Constitution, which critics call a move away from pacifism. A two-thirds majority for the government would allow it to make actual constitutional revisions.
He could possibly attempt some constitutional reforms, but those would be very unpopular. And I think Mr. Abe needs to remember that in 2007 his government collapsed because the public felt he was focusing too much on his personal ideological crusades and not focusing on the economy. And if he does that again, then his government this time could end the same way as his first government.
Electoral experts are predicting a low turnout. In a snap election, few appear to want. But with a longer term in office and a bigger majority the prize, for Shinzo Abe, it all makes perfect political sense.